Baptist Convention is a product of the ministry of a couple of mission organizations. It began somewhere in 1841 with the first missionaries that came to the coast of Cameroon, who were Jamaicans by origin, but Africans by descent. They were Jamaicans, but they were Jamaicans that have been freed as slaves who were taken during the slave trade in Africa. And after they heard the gospel while in Jamaica, and they knew their own story, they had always wanted to bring the gospel back to the west coast of Africa. And it happened that in 1841, the Baptist Missionary Society of England was celebrating its 50th anniversary and thought that they would sponsor missionaries to come to Africa, and these Africans to the land of their forefathers. 1841, C.K. Prince, who was a medical doctor by profession, came to the coast of Cameroon, but did not settle. He went off the coast to the island of Fernando Po, which is where they settled. In 1843, another Jamaican by origin, still an African, freed slave in the name of Joseph Merrick, came to Fernando Po, but proceeded to the coast of Cameroon and settled along the coast in Bimbia, where he quickly began ministering, and within a short time he was able to plant a church, he was able to start a school, he was able to start a printing press. A few months later, in 1844, Alfred Secker joined him, and Alfred Secker was actually a British man who was still sponsored by the Baptist Missionary Society of England. He joined him in 1844 and moved inland and settled around what used to be called Victoria at the time, today Limbe. He settled in Victoria, and he was able to start the first church in Victoria. As time went on and the Baptist work was flourishing, there were a number of things that affected the work. At this time that these early missionaries came, there was no colonial master over Cameroon. And because of the coming of Alfred Secker and the influence of English work in Cameroon, the Cameroonians were beginning to develop interest to have Britain annex Cameroon, which did not happen because they were short-circuited by Germany, and Cameroon became a colony of Germany in 1884, and that also affected the work of the missionaries. Since the missionaries were coming from Jamaica and coming from England, and Cameroon became a German colony, it meant that there was a switch in authority. And so a lot of the Baptist missionaries that were in Cameroon did not fit under the colonial rule of Germany, and some of them had to leave. The other thing that happened with the annexation of Cameroon by Germany was that the Basel mission came to Cameroon and probably took up a lot of the work that was begun by Alfred Secker and Joseph Merrick. The one thing that enabled Baptist work to survive is that the Baptist church in Down Beach, Ebenezer Down Beach, refused to be sold over to the Basel mission and became the bedrock for the establishment and the spread of Baptist work in Cameroon. In fact, the pastor of the church at the time, by name Joseph Burnley, and the church took it upon themselves to begin to prepare national missionaries like Robert Jam, the Mamadous, the Robert Turves, the Daniel Angus. They prepared them from the church in Ebenezer and sent them inland. And that's the way that the Baptist work survived from being completely taken over by the Presbyterian or Basel mission at the time. Somewhere around 1935, this is after the First World War, because Germany got defeated at the First World War. And when Germany got defeated at the First World War, Germany also lost its authority over Cameroon. But the Basel mission was firmly established and they didn't move as a result of the defeat of Germany. But Cameroon came under the rule of France. East Cameroon came under the rule of France, and the western part of Cameroon came under the influence of Britain and ministered as part of Nigeria. And these two parts of the countries will develop like this, and mission work will be done almost along these lines up until the 60s, when French Cameroon got its independence, 1st of January 1960. And the southern part of Cameroon got their own independence in October of 1961 and joined the rest of Cameroon. One of the things that happened as a result of the transitions, the Baptists in America came to Cameroon because they were Germans in origin. They were Germans who had moved from Germany and settled in America and started Baptist churches. And so because of that relationship, because of the German background, they could easily work with the Germans. And that's how the first North American Baptist missionaries started coming to Cameroon. Somebody like Paul Gebois, that's how he came, because the background of the North American Baptist Conference was German. They started sending missionaries from America to Cameroon. And that's how, like I said, Paul Gebois came to Cameroon somewhere in 1931. But the North American Baptist Conference was actually formed in 1935. And when it was formed, they took up the work that was already going on in Cameroon and appointed Paul Gebois, who was already in Cameroon, as the field mission director. And Paul Gebois is one of those strategic missionaries of the NAB that helped to organize the work of the Cameroon Baptist Convention into fields as we have them today. By 1954, as you know, all of that work that had begun in 1841 had grown in terms of size, in terms of quality of personnel, in terms of coverage of territory. And in 1954, the Cameroon Baptist Convention was formed to take over from the Cameroon Baptist Mission. That was the mission body of the NAB that was doing the work of church planting and evangelism in Cameroon. And today, the Cameroon Baptist Convention that was conceived in 1954 is a legal Christian denomination in the country, incorporated in 1962 by the then Prime Minister of West Cameroon and recognized in 1990 by a presidential decree. Like I said, one of the things that was engaged by the Cameroon Baptist Mission in an attempt to prepare for an indigenous church was the policy of integration. And the policy of integration meant that the missionaries will work and integrate themselves into the national church and work under the national church. And that policy provided for deliberate training, mentoring, and development of national leaders who will take over the work. For the missionaries that bought into this, and Paul Gebois was a champion of all of this, their goal was, let's work ourselves out of our jobs. And because of that, they took over the sponsoring of national missionaries that I earlier mentioned, like the Robert Jams and the Robin Tubbs and the Daniel Angus and the Chaffers. They took over the sponsorship of those ministries. And more missionaries also came. And as the more missionaries were coming, instead of just settling at the coast, they were following these national missionaries into what was called at the time the grass fields, up across into Mambila. This was happening because the missionaries knew that they did not come here to create an American church. They knew that someday they will leave, and they wanted this to be a national church. And so in 1954, the Cameroon Baptist Convention was about 12,500 Christians and about 218 congregations in 9 administrative units, fields as I earlier called them. There were about 180 ordained ministers, 153 primary schools, 1 teacher training college, 2 hospitals, and 4 health centers. And because the missionaries who initially came here were not medical doctors, they were not trained teachers. But in the process of doing evangelism, they encountered people who were sick. They encountered people who did not speak the same language like them. So they had to teach them to read and write, so that they could read and write and understand the gospel. That was the original intention. It is worth noting that the Baptist Hospital is probably the first Cameroon Baptist Convention health facility. And the history holds that it was initially a government post. And because the missionary organization had sent qualified manpower who were more qualified than Cameroonians, that facility was handed over to the Baptist Mission to manage. And then eventually it became a property of the Cameroon Baptist Convention. But that medical work itself was being done from them, not from Bansor. It was only when the hospital became a property of the Cameroon Baptist Convention that more of the work was done from Bansor with, who is this guy? Yes, Dr. Chefi. That was the first medical doctor of that hospital. His grave is right there in front of the hospital. And that's how we grew into doing schools, we grew into doing health facilities, and we have grown into providing other social amenities to communities as a means of helping them see the gospel, feel the gospel, so that the gospel is not just a spiritual thing. And that's why our mission as a convention is holistic proclamation of the gospel. Today, the Cameroon Baptist Convention has grown and it's a big organization. It's a nationwide organization with over 1,500 churches, more than 33 administrative units, fields, hosting a total of over 650,000 Cameroon Baptist Convention Christians. I must note that we are not a church that baptizes children or young people. We baptize people who have professed faith. So if you were just to count everybody that fellowships in the Baptist church, the Cameroon Baptist Convention should be well over millions of Baptists in the country. We have about 9 hospitals, 31 integrated health centers, 54 primary health care centers, over 4 higher institutes, 12 secondary schools, 19 primary schools, 6 nursery schools, a seminary on 2 campuses, and tens of other programs intended to minister to the whole person. The major impact that the Cameroon Baptist Convention has created over the years is its commitment to preaching the gospel to all the peoples within the territory of Cameroon, with an intention to go across its borders. And we have made several attempts at reaching beyond our borders. A few years ago, we went to Equatorial Guinea. Recently, we were in Gabon because we're saying we are not greedy with the gospel. We want to pass it on to people around Cameroon. Good enough, the Bible does not say we have to preach to all of Cameroon before we reach out. You begin where you are. And that's what we have been trying to do. And we have done this directly by preaching the gospel by word of mouth. We have done this by using the social media. We have done this using our strategic ministries like health facilities, schools, and other social action. One of the things that I want to comment is the strength of our Ministry of Health Care, which has opened doors in places that without it, we would never have had open doors in those places. And so those are things that God has given to us, and those are the things that we have used to create the impact that we have created across the country. Many people have been saved as a result of that. And I can say that we have been shining the light of the gospel. But what does it mean to shine the light of the gospel? There is no place that we have effectively shown the light of the gospel that has not come along with some form of development, some form of economic transformation, some form of improvement on the lives of the people. So we feel that that's the kind of impact that we have brought to communities across the country. And we're trusting God that we can continue to do this, and even better, because in the process, we have made errors that we are learning and improving so that we can be more deliberate and intentional in creating the impact that we so desire across the country. The Cameroon Baptist Convention stands tall in biblical expository preaching and the shameless pursuit of holiness. We have remained Bible-centered and conservative, and we have resisted the temptation to market the gospel and to conform to the patterns of the world. Besides, the Cameroon Baptist Convention does not market the gospel. We offer other services, and one of the things that we would say is our trademark is that we offer holistic, quality, sound education and health at affordable prices to everyone who needs it. We are not discriminatory as a means of Christian love. And I think that that is very unique about who we are as a convention. Have remained Bible-centered and resisted the temptation to conform to patterns of the world or to market the gospel. One of the things that we do is that we offer services, and the services we offer are holistic, they are affordable, and we offer them to all who need it as an expression of Christian love. So we are not discriminatory in our offer of services, either in terms of preaching or in terms of education or in terms of health care provision and other social services that we offer. We don't look at people in the faces. We don't ask, what is your faith, before we minister to you. The Cameroon Baptist Convention, going forward from here, has always have it as their objective to saturate the country with gospel-centered, gospel-proclaiming churches. Our vision, when we offer education, when we offer health care, when we offer psychosocial support in the midst of the current crisis, what we want to see is not more schools. What we want to see is not more hospitals. What we want to see is a living fellowship of churches. And that's what we want to see as we target the rest of the country, and even as we seek to go beyond our international boundaries into other countries. We want to see a living fellowship of churches. Some of the major projects that we are embarking on, for those who are Cameroon Baptist Convention Christians, we know that the Adamawa, the North and the Far North regions have constituted what we call Adnofan, which has been our major home mission field. And one of the things that we have prayed and wrestled and even fought over was to have a major hospital on this part of the country, which is something that is taken us long and didn't happen as we intended it to happen. But as God will have it, some of the missionaries that started a hospital in Marawa were pulling out of the country, and they handed that over to us. And we could only say, this is an open door that God has given us. So we feel that that's one major project that we have, to use that hospital as an entry point to saturate that part of the country with the gospel as we bring other services to accompany that. The other thing that we have been working on, there are two major initiatives that we have been working on that I think are indigenous-based initiatives. And one of that is the Cameroon Baptist Convention Development Fund, which is an initiative that is intended to empower the churches, as churches invest resources in this, that can be used in strategic infrastructural development that can help us give a face to the gospel message. The other one that I call this self-precautionary scheme is intended to provide aftercare support for our ministers and workers. You know that for a very long time, the Cameroon Baptist Convention has not been deliberate about bringing social support, or let me call it retirement benefits, to its pastors. And so I think that this self-precautionary scheme is a major project of the convention that we hope, and we are mobilizing and promoting, that pastors should enroll in it, churches should enroll their pastors into it, and our partners who care about the welfare of the ministry of the welfare of our workers can invest money in the self-precautionary scheme, so that when our pastors have worked and retired, they can still sit back and say, God, thank you, that out of the proceeds of what I earn or make working, I can still make life comfortable for myself and for my family. Personnel development has remained one of the major goals of the convention for over the years. One of the things that you need to pay attention to is there will never be a time that we will have all the manpower that we need, because as we train, people retire and we need to replace. We are expanding, and there are new areas of ministries that we need to be developing people into. One of the things that we are deliberately doing, we have about 4 couples who are indigenes from the Adamawa region that we are sponsoring through the seminary, because we believe that instead of taking people from other cultures and sending into other cultures where they will have to take time to start to learn the culture before they begin to engage the people, it will be easier if we train people from those cultures to go back and engage their own cultures because they will understand issues better than some people that come across cultures. So our seminary is at the cutting edge of this personnel development, especially when it comes to church planting and evangelism. The Cameroon Baptist Convention from inception has been deliberate in growing its ministries. And as a result of the growth that we have experienced, we have taken the initiative to add to the about 3 departments that were existing. In 1953, we had basically evangelism, we had education, and we had health. Those were the 3 main departments that we have. But as the church has grown, and as our work has grown and expanded, and more people have been won and more people have been developed, other ministry areas like the Department of Men, the Department of Women, the Department of Youth, the Department of Finance and Development, the Department of Theological and Christian Education have come into existence. And we are not creating these ministries because we are looking for structures. We're creating these ministries because we're trying to create structures to help us do ministry. And that's how these new departments that have developed over time have come into existence. And I think that they have made the advancement of our work a lot easier and a lot more managed, focusing on those departments. Let me take a simple example. If you look at the youth ministries department, there are particular things that young people will deal with among themselves as young people. There are other young people that will feel more comfortable being reached by another young person than a more elderly person. And so we are conceiving the youth ministry because we believe that when this generation of the church that we have faces out, there should be a future. And so our focus on youth ministry is to empower young people to be able to minister to other young people so that they can grow in their relationship with the Lord Jesus Christ and mature in their spirituality and also their moral lives and their academic capacities so that they can take over the leadership of the church. Because that is what has been happening. That's not to suggest that youths are not in the leadership of the church at this point. But we are more deliberate that while they're in leadership of the church today, we want to develop more young people who should grow into the various leadership positions and leadership of the various ministries that we have. Growth is a blessing, and it can also be a curse. And so one of the major challenges that the Cameroon Baptist Convention has eternally is are challenges that come with growth. You know that when you grow, those people that were here as founding fathers of the Cameroon Baptist Convention are holding tight to what they knew and had at the time. But there are people that are growing, and there are different ways of doing things that are growing into the same organization. And because we are not at the same level of thinking and at the same level of understanding, there is bound to be friction. So one of the major challenges I would say we have is what I would call growth pain, which is what we are wrestling with internally. Externally, there have been this wind of new trends in preaching and doing church that is more business-like than a free proclamation of the gospel, which is what we know. And we have been wrestling with this and trying to resist the temptation of turning the gospel proclamation into a business. And so externally, the major challenge that we're facing is a challenge of prosperity gospel and prosperity preaching. It has been a very challenging season for the Cameroon Baptist Convention, beginning with the crisis in the Northwest and the Southwest region, where we had whole communities destroyed and many people displaced. As a church, we thought that preaching the gospel is not just about the souls of the people, but also their physical needs. So we mobilized the churches to raise financial support so that we could be able to reach out and minister to the needs of these people. who were internally displaced. While we opted to do that as an organization, as a denomination, every single Cameroon Baptist congregation in the urban settings, which is where most of the people from the rural areas moved into, has been deliberate in ministering to these people within their own congregations. And we have had the privilege to partner with other organizations. We're partnering with Mission 21, we're partnering with the Norwegian Refugee Commission, we're partnering with agencies of the United Nations in a bid to help alleviate the sufferings of these people that have become near miserable, let me say, as a result of the crisis in the Northwest and in the Southwest. And as if that was not enough to make an already bad situation worse, the COVID-19 came. And COVID-19 has made life pretty challenging. And we have responded to that in several ways. Even before the government took the decision to suspend activity.